This episode will be completely taken out of context. Welcome to the Fact Check This podcast.
All right, Fact Check This podcast, episode 35, and today I'm going to talk about not politics, because I don't want to talk about politics this week. Good week to unwind. I do want to talk about the drop-off line at the school. Because if you cannot let your kid walk into the school by themselves, like you have to sit there in the line and watch the kid walk all the way to the door, then you need to go find a parking spot and you need to walk the kid to the door yourself. Get out of my damned way. Moving on to things that don't quite infuriate me so much as the school drop-off line. That is the bane of my existence. So I asked for recommendations on what to talk about, and I had some pretty good answers, but a lot of them require way too much like looking into and like thinking about it to to have gone from like 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon when I posted that to trying to run with a full podcast on it today. My favorite topics, however, were guns, which I ended up getting to talk about on the Blue Star Union show last night, which was a lot of fun. I really liked getting on and talking to those guys. And the New Jersey gun laws are absolutely insane. So I've got it posted to my Facebook page, and I'll link it everywhere else. Pretty sure I've linked it on my Twitter as well. So like that episode, the live stream is out there. So check that out. We had a great time talking. It was a lot of fun. Apparently I made a lot of faces that I didn't realize I was making at the time. The Army Hammer scandal. Apparently Army Hammer is a cannibal. That was interesting once I started reading on that, but there's way too much to go into with that that I need to read way more into to get it right. Star Wars and why all of the sequels, episodes 7 through 9, suck. And I strongly considered doing that one just for Dusty. But if I'm going to do an episode on the Star Wars sequel trilogy and why they suck, I've got to watch all 3 of them again and get them fresh. And honestly, if you're going to do a Star Wars podcast of any kind, like you really need to do the prequel trilogy as well and talk about it. And so that just not enough time to do the prep work on that. And I might just make that like a running thing once a month, do a Star Wars episode. I think that's a good idea. I like that. Elon Musk's desire to go to Mars. I actually got to reading up on Elon Musk and the Mars thing and a whole bunch of other stuff that he's got planned, and it's really cool. But it's, again, way too much stuff to that I need to look more into. But the best one that I ended up getting, which is going to be a total cop-out, was the guys from doing the show last night said, talk about my passions, silly pursuits, things that bring me pleasure, like hobbies and stuff like that, and just kind of get to know you type of a thing. Because I guess for as much as like I don't have a huge following on the show, I do have a lot of stuff that like I don't talk about much of anything other than the political stuff. Sean and I talked about DC Comics one episode, but beyond that, like we really don't talk about a lot of non-political stuff. So that was kind of what I ended up landing on. Was today I'm going to kind of talk about some of my hobbies and things that I enjoy and I'm passionate about outside of the political and podcasting realm. And just to kind of kick that off, because it was, one of the topics was like Star Wars. So I am a complete and total nerd. If I could pick this thing up and move it around, I've got an entire wall over here that is dedicated to Mass Effect artwork. There's a whole other wall over here that's dedicated to comic book stuff. You can't really see it very well in the video, but on the bookshelf back there, I've got a lot of like sci-fi and fantasy type novels and stuff like that. Like I really really do enjoy that kind of stuff. And with that, I like looking at like random weird stuff like multiverse theory and uh, like alternate realities and different stuff like that. I really get into all that stuff. I could talk for days about uh, like the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and all. I've got like the entire written works of Isaac Asimov, and like, I could talk about the laws of robotics and the Foundation series, which was incredible. If you've never heard of or know anything about the Foundation novels by Isaac Asimov, it sets it's set in the future, like a super distant future where humanity has colonized and set up uh, on all of these different worlds all across the universe. And Earth, the original Earth that we live on now, has been lost. And so, like, the way he writes is fantastic, and the novels, they all kind of tell different stories, but they're telling that story going down the same kind of line and path of Foundation, and it's brilliant works. So like that kind of stuff, I could talk about that all day long. And if anybody who like listens to this is interested in that kind of stuff, like shoot me a message and let's pick a topic from one of those worlds and talk about it. Like the books on the top shelf back there are R.A. Salvatore's Drizzt novels, and like I love those. I am not a Dungeons and Dragons person. I never got into that, but it's one of those things that it also fascinates me a little bit. And talking about that, like we were, you see people talk about it. It's another thing that gets like bandied around a bit on Twitter and stuff. Is like the different personality archetypes that kind of comes from the Dungeons and Dragons, and like you've got the lawful good, which is like the Superman type, like just the absolute Boy Scout do-gooder, and then you've got the neutral good, and then the chaotic good, and like everybody wants to be the chaotic good. It's like the person that kind of goes rogue and does crazy stuff, but they're doing it for the right reasons, and they're really like a good guy at heart, but just kind of have a slightly odd way of going about it. And like everybody wants to, you want to be the chaotic good. You want to be kind of the renegade wild child who also is really good at heart and strives to do the right thing. And I really want that for myself. But the more I look at the archetypes, I actually feel like I fall more into the chaotic neutral, which is they do things without regard for the rules, but it's not necessarily to be good. It's to do what's in his or her best interest. That's a little bit selfish, but I'm able to acknowledge that that's who I am. But like that's another really interesting thing is looking at the different archetypes and how they match up with people and how our personalities match up with those, and looking at like different characters in sci-fi and fantasy fiction and stuff like that to see how those characters rank and who they are and which ones you identify with. Like I love that kind of stuff. I'm a super huge nerd. I've got the John Carter of Mars collection over there, which was not a terrible movie. I should do some movie reviews, I guess. Like the John Carter movie that Disney came out with, it wasn't a terrible movie. It just wasn't. I don't think it was well branded or really well sold as to what it was going to be, and so it was a flop and it was a dud. But like with the same goes with Firefly, like that used to be on Fox with Nathan Fillion, and that is one of the best shows ever. Like, it's a sci-fi uh, adventure type show it's set in outer space, but it's also frontier like setting. Like, it's a outer space western, and it's so much fun, and it's really cool, and the approach they take to it. Plus, it is very political, and like, not in a modern political way. It approaches topics like, I mean, stuff that honestly, if you look at society today, it's stuff that's very relatable and very real. And like, it was an excellent show, but it only ran one season because I just don't feel like it was given a proper approach. It wasn't branded properly, and so people didn't get what they thought they wanted or thought they were getting out of it. And in hindsight, it's got a huge cult following, and they ended up coming back later and making a movie out of it. And like, it was really good. And I could talk about that all day long, like TV shows and series and movies and stuff. That because I'm a huge nerd. I've got a giant cabinet in here that's just full of movies and DVDs, TV series and stuff. And I could talk on that stuff all day long. And I really geek out on it because like there are a lot of things that are like, at this point, they're considered to have a cult following, and they're kind of weird, unusual movies or series that it wasn't that they were poorly executed or like there was nothing wrong with them. They weren't targeted towards the correct audience. And you get to see a lot of that stuff with Netflix and Amazon and Hulu. Like, they have a little more freedom now to take weird series like that and kind of run with it and make more out of it than than what they could have if they were trying to run it on network television 15, 20 years ago and try to get ratings off of it. Like Stranger Than Fiction. Would that have been a popular series on, say, Fox in the early 2000s if they did it exactly the way they've done it? Like, I don't know. Like, because it is so kind of niche and a little bit awkward and weird, and like, it's not like broad popular type of stuff. And honestly, you saw that with sort of a similar thing with, oh gosh, what was it? Sleepy Hollow. Fox had a TV series several years ago based around Sleepy Hollow. And it was kind of a weird, semi-horror story type crime drama sort of show. And it fizzled out pretty quick. It was a great show, but like, trying to put that stuff on network television, it just flounders for some reason. And that's that goes back into political stuff, like the things that are on TV and what mainstream media looks at. I don't know that it really is a good reflection of the world and what people actually like and care about and want. And so it's a unique topic to talk about and look at. But getting away from the sci-fi, fantasy, comic book, video game, and movie genre related type stuff, one of the other things that I have a very strong passion for is kind of the do-it-yourself type stuff, like being self-sufficient. So my wife and I, we have a garden that we do every year, which a portion of it is right outside this window that's behind me. And like, we have 3 different garden patches that we put in every year, and we plant corn and tomatoes and cucumbers, and we've got a blackberry bush, a raspberry bush, a fig bush, we have blueberries if the damn things will ever grow. We've got a grapevine in the back. We've also got peach, pear, apple, plum, and nectarine trees that we planted several years ago. So probably not this year, but very possibly next year we'll actually start getting a decent little harvest off of our fruit trees. Like we really strive for that kind of self-sufficiency thing. We're down to one chicken. My neighbor Robert wanted me to talk about chickens, and I think we're going to try to just have a full-on free-range chicken farm here in the neighborhood. But we're down to one chicken. Somehow something got in the pen that I had made and murdered the shit out of all of my poor chickens. I've got one left, and we allow her to be a free-range chicken in the backyard now, which we've got a fenced-in backyard. So we've just we're letting her run wild and do her thing. So she and the cat actually are like best of buddies. They chase each other around and like play fight and stuff. It's hilarious to watch the chicken peck at the cat's butt, and then the cat will like paw at the chicken, and like they play, and they're best good buddies. It's craziest shit ever. But we'll probably add more chickens, and like we really do want to be completely self-sufficient as much as we possibly can. I hunt and do stuff like that. Like, and I think that is a much more important hobby to have. Like I know how to build things. We've got a gazebo and a patio and a deck out back, and I built all of that last summer myself. And trying to get the kids to work with me on that stuff and learn how to do that stuff too, because that's important stuff. And as much as I said it wasn't going to be a political episode, like if you look at that stuff and the way things are in society right now and the direction we're moving going forward, if you don't have those kinds of skills and you don't know how to do that stuff, you are really positioned in a very bad place, because the way all of this operates right now, it is not built to last. Like the US dollar is completely fucking worthless as it is, and that's not going to change. Like it's only going to get worse. I just saw a buddy of mine had posted that the $15 an hour minimum wage is coming, whether you like it or not, and like he's probably right. It probably is. Maybe not in the next 2 years, but if the Democrats can get a stranglehold on the Senate to get the supermajority that they need to just ram through literally anything and everything, then it's coming, and it's not going away. Like that conversation is not going to stop happening, and when it happens, it is going to be the final nail in the coffin that completely destroys the economy. And when that's destroyed, everything as we know it now goes away. Like there is going to be a massive upheaval, and something's going to change, and it's very possible that on the other side of that, if you don't have these skills to be self-sufficient, you will be in a very negative position as far as being able to provide for yourself and your family. And so that's one of those things too, that like everyone needs to be more passionate about that sort of thing and be working towards developing those skills. And it's not anything super hard or super complicated. It's like any of this stuff. Like I don't have particularly official training of any sort on video editing or audio editing or any of that kind of stuff. It's stuff that when I started working with these podcasts and stuff, I just kind of started figuring it out on my own. Like I started pulling up different programs and messing with stuff and tweaking with stuff and learning how to do it. And now is a good time to start doing that with your own garden, with your own little farm, with learning to be self-sufficient, because there's a good chance you got another 2 to 4 years, maybe 5, where you don't have to be fully self-sufficient. And if your garden falls through, you can go to Aldi or Walmart and load up on the groceries that you needed. And if you somehow manage to kill all of your chickens without getting a single egg, you can still go and get a dozen eggs and you'll be okay. If you don't learn how to milk a goat, you can still go get your milk. My wife is going to hear this and be like, so we're getting a goat? Because she wants a goat and she wants a pig. But my only stipulation for a goat and a pig is a goat and a pig are not a pet. They are food. So that's my stipulation on those sorts of things. But now is the time to start learning these things because you've got the opportunity to try and fail. If you're waiting until the full collapse of society to learn how to farm, you are fucked. Like it's too late. It's too late. Like this is the time to be developing those skills. And if you have questions, ask somebody. Ask me. Shoot. Ask anybody. Like it's a good time to learn a new trait, a new skill, a new anything. Sitting around playing video games and watching TV and listening to music and that, like they're all fun things that we can do, but being able to go out of your house and provide for and take care of yourself are infinitely more important. Having a good job is something that'll pay dividends as long as your dollar has value. And at the point that the dollar no longer has value, your job is effectively useless unless it's something that can be bartered or traded, like a skill or a service or a good related type thing. And so at that point, you've got to be self-sufficient. And that's what I highly recommend to anybody who happens to have listened this far into it. Is it's time to start learning how to be passionate about stuff like that. Stuff that makes you a better and more self-sufficient person. We all need to be a little bit more passionate about reading and learning from history, and we also all need to be a little bit more passionate about getting the fuck out of the house and learning to do something with your hands that contributes to your long-term sustainability. And I'm going to wrap on that. Hope everybody has a great rest of your week and weekend. And with any small amount of luck, I'll be back on a normal schedule next week with a couple episodes to dive into all the current events and topics that are going on in the world. We can talk about Joe Biden's first 3 or 4 weeks of his presidency and just what that's brought us and all of that fun stuff. But in the meantime, hope everybody has a good one. Go out and meet some people, learn something new, have some fun. See ya.